we go. So Catherine's one of our Brink advisors with a specialty in marketing. And she has built really powerful marketing strategies for companies worldwide, ranging from Fortune 500s like HP, Bank of America, Procter & Gamble. She also holds an MBA from Northwestern, and she went to Princeton. She got her BA in chemistry there. So what I love about Katherine is that she takes a very, very hands-on approach with her clients and really helping you think through exactly who that target market is. When you ask her, like, how do I research that segment? She comes up with about 30 different ideas for you. She's able to really dig in and go beyond strategy into true implementation. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the session over to Katherine. Just a reminder on kind of how we work these things. As you've probably gotten very used to using Zoom right now. I'm on a little bit of Zoom burnout myself, but I would love to see you all on video. So feel free to put on your video if you feel comfortable. I didn't do my hair today, so you know I'm doing it. You guys can do it, but we'd really love to actually engage with you and see your faces if you feel comfortable. Please mute yourself unless you have a question or want to speak up with a comment. We'd love to hear from you, and I will be monitoring the chat throughout the session, and we'll interrupt Katherine at will to ask those things too. So like I said, without further ado, Katherine Cleland.
Great, nice to meet you all. And so just to augment a little bit of what Lauren was saying is that I'm a Brink advisor and I work with a number of clients at the Brink as a primary advisor, but I'm also a referral person for marketing questions that go sort of deeper than the standard advisor. And so if you've got marketing questions, feel free to ask your advisor to refer you to me for specific one-on-one help in specialty areas, because that's an opportunity that we have to work together. Customer focus is where I live and breathe. And in this moment, you all are my customers. And so I'm going to take a moment to be customer focused and ask you what you want to get out of this session. And so if you could put something in the chat or unmute yourself and take a moment to tell me your name, your business, and why you joined this session, that will help me tailor the vast quantity of content that I have into a more manageable, focused set of information that you can use. So let's start there. I see at the top of my screen, I'll go just through what I see on my video on the Zoom. I see right after Lauren, I see Regina. Regina, do you want to tell us why you joined us?
Hi, Katherine. So I work at the University of San Diego too, and I manage the entrepreneurship program. So the reason I'm joining today is I feel like a lot of the messaging that everyone's coming across sounds very similar. So how do we differentiate ourselves and how do we kind of get over this all messaging sounding the same, and how could we actually talk to people without sounding authentic, but that our message actually reaches them.
Okay. Misty's next. Do you want to say hi, Misty?
Hi, everyone. I'm super glad that you are all here. In the days after the world shut down, our consulting team was saying, well, what do our clients need? We were asking that question, you know, what do we need now? What do we need 10 days from now? What do we need 2 weeks from now? You know, what do we need 30 days from now? And what I kept hearing was pivot. Well, we needed a product pivot, a customer pivot, you know, like a model pivot. And so we created this series. So we asked the best of our team to come up with the best information they could in all of the different ways that our companies were going to need to change and adjust. And so I have been hoping I could attend all of these sessions and just super glad to be here today.
Great. Paul, I see you next.
Yes, good morning. I'm also an advisor at the Brink, and every one of my clients has a marketing issue at one point or another in their description and their progress. So I'm joining just to hear best practices and most current thinking from a noted marketing expert. Also, I'm going to be conducting a session later on in the Pivots calendar, so I just want to see how the good people do it.
Great. Chris, I'm going to skip you and jump over to Scott. Scott, I see you next.
Sure. Hi.
Hi.
You already know me, I guess, but my kind of biggest interest right now is helping me kind of prioritize all the things I know I should be doing and to a little bit hold myself accountable and trying to figure out kind of how to translate those big ideas into like, what do I do right this moment?
Okay. Vicki, I see you next.
Hi, I'm Vicki Meadows. I have a new company called Explore STEM that is a science education company that was geared towards homeschool. And we had planned on being launching our company over the summer. I'm sorry, the video is like different than my camera, so I look like I'm not looking at you, but I am. We were supposed to be launching over the summer at a series of homeschool conferences. And we were at our first conference the day the pandemic was declared. So the whole thing went out the window. So, and in terms, and our customer base as well, went from a very small customer base to every kid in America. So we've really been working on overdrive, trying to figure out who our new customer is, where we should really be. We really hadn't done a lot of work in social media or digital marketing. I'm a PhD in chemistry scientist by training. I come from a biotech background. So we've really been just learning as much as we can and trying to pivot our company in light of these changes. So we see this as a real opportunity. And of course, I'm here to see what you have, you know, to teach us, to help us really focus on the most valuable tasks we could be doing.
Okay. Tom, I see you next.
Sure. Good morning. And actually, our concerns are kind of a lot like Vicki's. You know, we build custom software and applications for commercial airlines. One of the businesses that has been heavily impacted by this set of circumstances. What we used to do from trade shows or direct mail, how we used to get in touch with our clients has kind of dried up because everyone's working from home right now. We can't do direct mail. We can't go to trade shows right now. So it's kind of looking to see what are the new best practices. Again, I think I'm copying Vicki hand in hand here right now, is that we have not also done a lot of digital marketing because we have a very small customer set. We could interact with them more one-on-one. Yeah, but now everything's new for us, and how do we adapt to that and with, you know, very efficiently, where marketing dollars maybe aren't as plentiful as they were 8 to 12 weeks ago. So.
Yep. Okay, Heidi, I see you next.
Okay, I'm trying to get my tech. I don't know. Do I show up? Switch camera. Are you looking out my window?
I can hear you.
Okay, let's. Okay, if you can hear me, we'll just go with that because I just got home from a run. I'm sweaty, ugly anyway. So my husband is an orthodontist in Carlsbad, and just a small practice, want to take really good care of our people. We've never been good marketers. We, you know, just have hoped doing great work and being the best people we could be is what it took. And that's not the case in this world. The world was already evolving, and we were trying to kind of figure out what we needed to do. And now it's so different. And we know braces are now going to be low on the priority list. If dad lost his job or mom doesn't have a source of income, you know, if you've got a raging toothache, you'll go to the dentist. If you've got crooked teeth, so what if you can't bite that lettuce perfectly? You can go another, you know. So we're just like, and so knowing, and cash flow, just all of that, like how much money do we need to now spend to make money? It's just terrifying to me. We're not good business people. My husband's a great orthodontist, and we're just good people, but bad business people. So if you can work miracles in this next hour, that'd be awesome.
Oh, slow expectations makes it easy. Great. Robert, I see you next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Robert, and I work in film and video production. And I really it sounded like a very interesting topic, and I just wanted to listen in on what everyone has to say.
Okay. Beth Ann, I see you next.
Sorry, I was a little slow. I had it on mute and I was away from the computer. So yeah, the topic was very interesting. We are adding COVID and telemedicine health features to our current product. And so I just thought I would join in and see what I can learn.
Okay. Secha? How do I pronounce that? Secha, are you there? I'll move on to Elka.
Hi, I'm sorry, I joined a little bit late. What was the question?
Just what did you expect out of this class? Just checking in with people to see what their expectations or specific topics they want to have covered.
Oh, great. I just was trying to learn more about marketing strategies, probably on a shoestring, which is also happening right now.
Great. Then I saw Natalie.
Hi, good morning. So I developed a smartphone app for pet owners. Can you hear me well?
Yep.
For pet owners to store, manage, and transfer their pets' medical records and health information. Then currently expanding that to do communication with clients, including telemedicine. So trying to overall refine my current advertising and marketing strategy, and also trying to find ways to make it more sophisticated and probably, that's what I'm looking for, probably a little bit more effective.
Okay, great. Sechi, we could not hear you. Do you want to try again? I still don't hear you, so I'm going to move on to Petros. Welcome, Petros. What would you like to get out of this session? You're still muted.
Hi, my name is Petros. I'm actually in another webinar, but I just wanted to record this meeting so that I'll be able to take advantage of what you guys discussed.
Got it. Catch it later. Makes sense?
Yes.
And Mayams, I don't know how to pronounce your name. M-Y-A-M-S-T-H-U.
Hi, sorry, this is Mia. I am Mia. Yeah, Mia too. I should actually rename my profile. Anyway, my name is Mia. I'm a CEO and co-founder of a company called Visit Cell Medical, GPS for cell therapy. We have a business model for service and product, and we currently are focusing on product sale rather than service because of the COVID-19 disruption. So I'm trying to actually learn a lot more about doing marketing efficiently, cost effectively, and anything I could learn from everyone.
Great. Okay, thank you all. I don't think I missed anyone. If I missed you, go ahead and put something in the chat and I'll check that out as I go along. The focus here today is not about marketing strategy or marketing overall, but it's how to use your existing data to make more efficient marketing decisions. And so I'm very much focused on the use of analytics and database marketing to help you choose how to best move forward in a time of both change and limited resources. And so what CMOs said about using analytics and where they're using analytics is very much focused, as you all said, on the digital marketing world. So SEO, SEM, email, and SMS marketing is the #1 place where CMOs are saying they're using their analytics, but also looking at their social media outreach and analysis and using that to help drive brand strategy. There's also opportunities to use your analytics and loyalty and retention programs. I'm not covering that today, but it's a rich area to work in, as well as understanding your customers better through customer segmentation and customer service. So There's huge ways, and we could spend literally 4 sessions easily just going into each of these sections. What we're going to focus on today is what I call a digital marketing dashboard. And this is what I work on with a lot of my clients, is using your own data to make smarter marketing decisions, conserving cash, focusing on performance. And this is applicable not only to e-commerce businesses, but lead generation businesses, as well as any other kind of business that uses their web as a pivotal source of information to gain leads or customers in any way. And so that's really what we want to focus on and take a look at today. The reason we make data-driven decisions is because we all have all of these biases. And on the right-hand side here were 20 different kinds of biases that mess up decision-making. I picked out 5 that I see my clients consistently make. And that is when they're not doing database decision-making, they have blind spots. They're used to looking in certain areas and thinking a certain way. And if they're not comprehensively looking at all of their data, they miss things. And that's particularly true in a time of disruption or change. It's easier to miss things because you've had a pattern that is based on your history pre-COVID. With all of the disruptions that are happening during COVID, a lot of those assumptions are no longer going to be true. And so you've got to figure out where they're not true and look objectively at all of your data so that you don't have those blind spots. There's also a recency bias. What people work on is what has worked most successfully most recently. Well, what was working for you in January may not be working for you at all in April or May. And so looking historically at your data, looking at cyclical nature of the data and disruptions in that data can help challenge that. There's confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is when you have a specific idea already planted in your brain and you look for data to support that. And this I find happens a lot with entrepreneurs because they are so confident in their model and their approach to their market that they look for everything that supports their position and don't necessarily pull in the information that may challenge them, because that creates a great space of discomfort. And so as you look at your data, you have to be willing to live in chaos and discomfort for a while till you see patterns and changes. And so you need to work through that. Selective perception is very similar to confirmation, and that is you're looking at specific things you expect. And then the ostrich effects is just denial. The chaos that we're in is so overwhelming that it's just easier not to deal with it at all and put our head in the sand and pretend it's not happening. And so these are the 5 biases that I'm seeing right now that I think we really need to address looking at data. So what we want to get to is what of your marketing initiatives are most effective? What kind of programs, what kind of ads, copy work best? What kind of website traffic patterns do you have in trends? Which customers and segments are most valuable? How do you identify some of your target market? And are there opportunities to improve your customer experience? Today, because of time, we're going to spend most of our time in the top 2 bullets, and then we can come back or touch on in questions the last 3 areas. What I'd like to do now is,
Catherine, we've got a couple comments in the chat too that I think are really relevant right now around the fact that there's folks who just feel like they don't have much data right now. So they're not even sure like how to kind of start there, or if they have very little data, how do they make decisions with a low volume of data?
We'll get there.
All right, cool. Just make sure to.
Excellent questions.
Like
Thank you very much for pointing those out to me, Lauren. So at the very top of the chat, hopefully everyone can see that there is a URL that is a clickable URL. And I'm opening that now. Does everybody see a spreadsheet? It's called the Sample Dashboard for Digital Marketing. This is something that I have built over time for my clients, and I am making this available to you all. Please copy it and save it to your own Google Drive. Don't write over the original sample dashboard. but it's very easy to copy. You just go to File, Make a Copy, and then you can save that in your own Google Drive right here on the 5th item down, File, Make a Copy. This is a great place to start with exactly that situation where you don't believe you have a whole lot of data. It allows you to pull in the data you do have, and it continues to show you where you don't have data, so you continue to work to get it. So let me take you through this spreadsheet, and then we'll dive deeper into each of the elements and how it helps us make database decisions. So this yellow area is what I call my KPI. It's the core metrics that drive the client's business, so that drive your business. And this is where you are going to measure what are the important metrics that drive your revenue. And so for this particular sample, they have multiple things they're measuring sort of in a funnel. How many nights they have booked, how many monthly inquiries they get online, how many monthly inquiries they get on the phone, how many appointments are made, how many new committed dollars they have. Tracking COVID-19 cancellations was an important metric that was added, how many online orders, and then what revenue dollars look like in a given month. So you can see how by looking at some elements of their funnel coming into their bookings, they get to what are their dollars in any given month. And the client, when we started this dashboard, didn't collect any of this information, and she couldn't believe that she hadn't been tracking her own core metrics for her business. She'd been so busy operating that she hadn't been looking at what was happening. But unless you have these metrics, you don't understand for everything below what's actually working to drive some of these opportunities. So what you have to do is think through, what are your core metrics? If you've got leads that are generated, or white papers that are downloaded, or whether it's online sales, if you've got any kind of e-commerce action, or what it is you're trying to accomplish through your digital marketing, you want to track it here, and you want to make sure at least something has dollars that drive into your accounting process, because that's essential to knowing how your business is moving. And you'll see in a moment how this spreadsheet works. So then the next section of the spreadsheet is measuring your actual Google Analytics. And so it's called Analytics here, and this comes from Google Analytics, which is free tracking software that you can add to any website. All you have to do is go to analytics.google.com, sign up for an account, and then put a tracking code on your website. It depends on your website how to do it, but Google Analytics has great step-by-step instructions, and almost all web developers have great step-by-step instructions. So I'm not going to go into that level of detail right now, but Google Analytics is a very easy to use free tool. And what it gives you is information about who visits your site and how they visit your site. And I'm not in the Google Analytics right now. I'm at the summary level information. I'll go over to Google Analytics in a minute and show you how to pull out some of this data. But the core data that I find every single client I've had needs to look at is they need to see who's coming to their website organically from both Google and Bing. Very important to track. Then who's coming to visit on pay-per-click visits. So if you've got an ad program for Google Ads or Microsoft Ads, this allows you to track how many visitors are coming in from paid visits. How many people are coming in through direct visits, which are people who actually type in your URL or click a link that's a permanent link that they may have on their browser history or otherwise. Visits from a priority partner site. This is where somebody has set up, and you can have multiple lines of these priority partner sites. So if you have strategic partnerships with specific other websites that you expect to drive traffic, you want to keep those visible right in front of you, whether those partnerships are driving visitors. So this was a shock to this client when she told me her priority partner was XYZ, and then I put in visits from priority partner site and tracked it for her, and she realized she was getting less than 10 visits a month. She found she was overpaying significantly for that partnership because it wasn't delivering either A, visitors, and B, quality visitors. So there were two levels of metrics that allowed her to see that this was a very inefficient way to spend her money. Referred social are all the visitors who come from any social media. And so you can see her social media campaign, which she was spending a lot on, was not delivering visitors very well either. So upping the efficiency, but this is at the top level. And then referred all others is all the other ways people came into her website. And so this gives us a high level view of who's coming to her website. And you have on the next page a web traffic graph that takes that just top level and allows her to look at who's come to her website for Google organic visits, Bing organic visits, the pay-per-click. You can see last August and September, she overpaid for her pay-per-click visits. And she also is tracking her spending in red and her new committed dollars in terms of bookings in blue. So we're trying to measure what work we're doing and where it's driving success, graphically as well as in the dashboard. And this graph automatically graphs from this purple set of data on this spreadsheet. And you can adapt and adjust this spreadsheet if you're a spreadsheet person. So for this particular client, she is a content-driven business. And so one of the things we looked at is her content creation. And we decided to put in tracking for all of the content she's planning to create in the future, how she's going to create it. And this is an activity metric. This is not a results metric, but this is the activities that she and her subcontractors are doing that she wants to track to see how well these map with her actual social media metrics, which are pulled from Facebook Insights and Instagram tracking, because those are the two sources of social media she has decided to spend time on. In social media, she's looking at her followers, her likes, her posts, her ad reach, her engagements, her ad spend, ad clicks, and Instagram followers, posts, and likes. And so she's got a lot of metrics she's now tracking here in her social media to try and understand how that relates to bookings and visits. So there's a lot of layers below this, but this is the sort of the highest level. What are we doing, and is this the right place to invest? And then the analytics details is what is actually pulled and manually entered from Google Analytics. So if you're one of those folks who likes to automatically pull stuff in, you can do that. But I find the discipline of manually looking at and pulling at the data means that every single month it gets an actual physical review. So it's part of the discipline process for the client, and for the marketer is to actually look at the data year over year and pull in that information. And so they've got organic visits, prior year organic visits, growth, the bounce rate, which is a measure of the quality of those visits. So what a bounce rate is when somebody comes to your website, looks at a page, and then immediately leaves the website. Google sees that as a failure because you have not engaged the person to either A, stay longer, or B, go to another page on your website. And so high bounce rates are considered to be low quality in the Google world. But understanding what your bounce rate is extremely important because it measures a relative quality of traffic. We've got Bing visits, and then we've got all the different kinds of referral visits. We have Google ad information that's pulled from Google AdWords, and then we've got Bing ad performance if it exists, and then we have search engine optimization details, what is happening from Google Search Console. So a lot of information here, but what we're doing is trying to track our digital marketing footprint and look for efficiencies as we go through it. Are there questions on the dashboard overall, and that is a potential tool? Because I wanted to give you that framework before I dive into sort of some of the areas so you can see where you could take it. What is the application of this? Is to copy that dashboard, make it your own, and figure out what data you're going to track for your business.
Catherine, Scott does have a question he posted on chat. He asked, do you ever do a specific look at the conversion of site visitors like Hotjar or something like that?
I don't know Hotjar. I do look at conversion metrics, and it's an important part of Google Analytics. If you have a conversion or goal on your website that makes sense to track.
I think I used the wrong language. I mean the maybe not conversion. There's a couple programs where you can actually like watch someone's mouse move around, right, to like see how people are using the site. Do you dive that far in when you're doing this kind of work?
I have done that probably 1 in 30 clients. That level of depth and detail on site navigation is like a 500 level class. It's very advanced work for someone who is ultra optimizing. Most of my small business and entrepreneurial clients don't have the available bandwidth to focus there because it would not be a good return on their time.
And there's probably lower hanging fruit.
There's a lot lower hanging fruit everywhere else in their business. It's incredibly interesting to do and to watch. And if you have a particular page or 2 pages that are your highest goal pages, and you're finding it's not performing like you want it to, so you have a high abandonment rate, which you can see on exit pages, you can take a look at that. And so looking at Google Analytics, what to use Google Analytics for, the top level metrics is sort of return on advertising investment, goals and conversions by source. Referral traffic is the #1 thing I find most of my clients want and need to use Google Analytics for. And referral traffic, let me show you that. So let's go live to analytics, not the dashboard. I gotta find it. I've got so many Zoom meeting things up here. I can't find my navigation. Analytics, there we go. So in Google Analytics, this is what a live Google Analytics dashboard looks like. And it can be extremely overwhelming. And so in the slides from today, which I presume will be made available, I have specific where to go to find some of these. But in analytics, the #1 place I go is acquisition, all traffic, source medium. So down here on the left, you see home, customization, real-time audience, acquisition, all traffic, source medium. Tells you where your traffic is coming from by source and medium. So it gives you the level of detail to understand how people are finding your site. And so for this particular client, they're getting the vast majority of their traffic from organic and Google cost per click. You can see in this particular time frame, they've got 854 visitors from Google organic and 801 from Google cost per click. So it gives us some really good information. We can also see where else they're getting traffic from. So let's say this fastwall.com referral is a priority partner. And this is a program they've paid this website to send them visitors through an ad or a package or some kind of a program. And they have only sent over 32 people with 0 e-commerce conversions. This gives them really good insight over an appropriate time period as to whether this is a good investment for them. What's really important though is to look at your time period. So we're looking at acquisition, all traffic, source medium. I've got numbers, but the most important thing up here is my dates. This is just a 6-day time period. It's not a relevant time period for conversion for this particular client that has a 90-day lead time from idea to purchase. So if I take that same view and I expand my date range to be year to date from January 1 to now, and I apply it, I see a completely different view. I can now see that I've got 584 visitors from that particular partner, and I can see that there were actually 3 transactions that resulted in a certain amount of revenue. Now I can look at that from a return on investment perspective on a year-to-date basis. So as you're looking at your traffic, you also have to look at it within the context of the appropriate time period for conversions for your business. And if you're an e-commerce platform, that might be same week conversions, it might be 2-month conversions, but for longer lead time sales processes, that can be 6 months to a year as possibilities. So these are really important things to consider. And so the reason I chose this client was looking at data in context of a couple of things. So we're gonna go here to the next efficiency, where is it? Where's my red slide? Like I said, I have too much content. Not that one. Here it is, there it is. So the TRIES framework, what you want to do when you're looking at your analytics is you have to look at your time frame. Just like I showed you, not only the relative length of time for your business cycle, but also year over year, month over month. So let me show you that real quickly. So this looks like a really good trend upward in terms of visitors to the website, which is absolutely marvelous. And so I was really excited about that. And then I went up here and I looked at a comparison to the previous year. So now I'm not only looking at a broader time frame, I'm comparing it to the previous year. I'm going to apply that. And I'm going to see, oh, please be live. I think I'm using up all the internet cycles. There we go. I can see that I'm up year over year. This is wonderful. This is amazing. I'm so excited for this client. The client and I are all excited. And so we think we've got a huge win here. But the next thing we've got to look at is reference. We've got to compare it to the market and the competition as well. So if my year over year is up, at this point we can see that it's up 30% year over year in traffic. But in the times of COVID, if I look at Google Trends and I look at his market, which is raised bed gardening, look at what's happened in the real world. Just looking at a 12-month period. Raised bed gardening has gone through the roof since COVID happened. Everybody's building a vegetable garden. And so I look at our growth year over year and I go, we're up 30%, but this is up more than 300%. So we're actually not capturing our share of the growth in this overall market. And if I look at this as a 5-year trend, you can see this is, for gardening, a white swan event. So COVID has created a huge pivot opportunity in this market that we haven't even begun to touch, even with our growth 30% year over year. So how does this client take that reference information and put his analytics into context that creates an analytical opportunity for efficiency? Does everybody sort of see why we needed to have both the time and the reference information before we could come to a conclusion as to how we were doing? And so given what your market may be, what your topic may be, go in and take a look and see what COVID has done to your particular. And so if we put in here sandals as a search term and compare it, we can see that year over year, sandal searches are down versus the past 4 years. People aren't buying new shoes in the time of COVID compared to raised bed gardening. So if you were selling shoes, you'd be in a different world, but you've got a different relevancy, and understanding some of these topics or search terms in Google Trends can give you good context. And it's free. Again, Google Trends is free. Google Analytics is free, added to your website. So we've got time and reference, and then we've got interactions. So if we go back to how people are experiencing our brand and site and go back to the analytics, I can see that my Google Organic is up versus year ago, and my bounce rate has dropped. Well, it stayed the same, 53%, so no change in bounce rate. My average pages per session is almost the same, and my average session duration is slightly shorter. So not a huge change, which means I'm not bringing in lower value traffic. And in fact, for my Google cost per click traffic, I'm actually bringing in a lower bounce rate and more pages per session. I'm bringing in a higher quality traffic. And I can see that now in where I'm measuring e-commerce conversions as one of my metrics. So that's part of what you're looking for, is interactions, how someone is experiencing your brand and site. And there's lots of information you can get there. The other thing that you've got, and I'm going to go back to the digital dashboard, is events. A lot of us do events for our business, whether it's a trade show for Scott. I know Scott does trade shows, whether it for the woman who's doing the software or the schooling, the homeschooling. She was an event just as the pandemic was announced. One of the things you can do is mark on your graph and on your analytics when your events were, and tie them by color to specific metrics that you would expect to see. So it could be that this is, instead of current month's night, this becomes events. And if you're event driven, you can say that you did a trade show 1, trade show 2, and you're tracking and looking for event based. I have a client that drops a catalog about every 6 months, but he doesn't have a strict schedule. So when we look at his analytics, he will have big spikes that will make year-over-year comparisons really wonky unless you make sure you always look at a window of time that has the catalog drop, both last year and this year. So last year he dropped his catalog in March. This year he dropped his catalog in late April because of COVID disruptions. So if we compare this March versus last March, it's not an even comparison. We have to make sure we keep that catalog event in the window to compare year over year, because it impacts, even though it's a physical catalog, it hugely impacts his digital traffic and his digital conversions. So that's the next piece in the matrix, is sort of the events, your events, industry events, and any society events. Those events can be holidays. So if you have peaks or valleys below or before or after key holidays or seasonality, keeping track of those is very important. And then the source, referrals, location, and device. So as we go into the details here, we can look at, I can increase my number of rows to 25 rows, and I can see where else referrals are coming in. So this old house happened to do a feature article that linked to my client late last fall, and that has driven high quality traffic to his website. So that's an insight that says guest blog posts or getting references are valuable, and we're actually looking at hiring essentially a PR firm that does product placements on gardening sites and home sites as an investment because of the success of this one referral, because we found that these folks are not only good traffic in terms of very low bounce rates, very high page rates, but they also have a very high conversion rate over here on the right-hand side. So they tend to buy at a higher rate. So investing in them as quality traffic is a really good insight. And so it's not only this one, but who else is like them? Who else can we work with, and is it worth investing in a new subcontractor or more time working in that particular area? Does that make sense? And are there any questions, Lauren?
You're doing great. You've got 9 minutes left.
Okay, so you need to start at the end.
Questions, though.
Yeah, we need to start at the end is your goals. Setting up your conversions is really important. And so I focus so much here on conversions. In analytics, you have to choose what generates a conversion for you. Is it a lead? Is it a sale? Is it a connection? What action are you anticipating? And then you work backwards from there. And analytics has, if you go to admin, you go into goals. They will allow you to set goals that are revenue, creating accounts, submitting content, viewing more, finding a location, see a deal, add to favorite, share social, or custom goals. So you can set up goals to track as conversions any way that makes sense for you. So I have another client who their number one goal, their leading indicator to getting a successful conversion, because it's a long lead time item, is if somebody downloads their technical manual, which is like a third step in a funnel to get them somewhere. But as soon as they get to downloading that technical manual, the probability they're going to convert goes way up. And so we measure very specifically the downloads of that technical manual and which sources of traffic create better downloads of that manual as a leading indicator. And we've set that up as a conversion goal, and that's what we track. And so this conversion goal is very specific to every business, and spending some time thinking about what are those leading indicators on your website and in your digital marketing that will lead to revenue for you. And it may not be revenue on the site. Google Analytics is way more than e-commerce. And I know most of our businesses are not e-commerce businesses, so I wanted to share that with you and let you look at, and you can have multiple goals. So the thing that I just showed you that right now we have 3 goals we're measuring for this very simple client, but for other clients, I actually have 8 or more goals. So I can go to a different client and go to, you can see they have 8 different goals, some of which we're currently not tracking, some of which we are, because we're in the process of redoing their whole contact form. This becomes more challenging if you have your goal off your website. So I have one client who I showed you earlier. She's got a house rental business that is a furnished rental business. All of her bookings happen on a booking engine that is off of her website. And so we can't track the actual bookings digitally through Google Analytics. We can only track them up to the point that they leave her website and go to the booking website at this point in time. That's very advanced analytics to track across websites, and the vendor that does the booking website doesn't allow it. And so depending on how your actual transactions happen, you may or may not be able to see your exact conversions in your analytics. And so I wanted to alert you to that. And so in the slide set here, I've got all kinds of slides that sort of take you through everything I just went through. And so it's all here. How do you find it? How do you look at it? What questions can I answer that you might have relative to your specific business? Or other questions as we run out of time here?
And Catherine, Maya had a question around, she's tracking an event, like she might have a specific trade show or an event, and wanting to create leads and seeing those leads moving into conversion. And, I think her question was around how do we kind of analyze that, and do we do it separately?
You would do that manually, because at a trade show, generally the leads you're going to get are through collecting business cards or a clipboard with a form that somebody fills out and making note of those. And what I recommend for everyone is that they create some kind of system to track leads over time. It's called a CRM system, customer relationship management. And the first place you start with that is in a Google Sheet or in an Excel spreadsheet. And you just put in, for each event you have, all the leads you've got, their name, their phone, their company, and their email. And then you put in columns for every time you make a connection with them. And then you figure out whether or not they end up actually converting. If you find you have more than 100 leads, that's when you start looking at investing in what's called CRM software that allows you to manage that in a more complex way. But yes, setting that up in a spreadsheet and tracking that and being absolutely rigorous every time you send them an email, you do a phone call, you send them a follow-up support document, and then whether they ultimately purchase is very valuable information as you look again at scalability. So when you see what works either for that particular target market or for that type of customer, you can then decide to do more of what works and do less of what doesn't work.
And Catherine, is there a specific CRM you particularly like? It sounds like Mia's using Zoho.
Zoho is a good one. I've got clients on Agile CRM. I have a client who was on Infusionsoft, which is now, I've forgotten what it's called. It's bought by a company that starts with K. There's so many different CRMs, and each one has its strengths and weaknesses. What I find for small and medium businesses is that usually they try to jump into Salesforce too early, and the technical difficulties and the overall management structure required to use Salesforce overwhelms them, and they get burned and they stop using it. So that's the only one I found that is consistently way too complex for your average entrepreneur.
Natalie's raising her hands. Natalie, did you want to ask your question?
Yes, please. So I have a platform, advertising platform that I'm using right now. And personally, I feel like it's underperforming. Do you have any insights or general tips or recommendations to see if there's any way to enhance the effectiveness of a certain advertising program that may be underperforming?
What kind of advertising program is it?
So it's going to be it's through the LA parent and San Diego parent. It's kind of give you a general background. Those demographics overlap identically with pet owners. And so a lot of families have pets. And so I'm trying to target those demographics. And so it's going to be on a web and also a digital platform.
Yeah, so what you want to do is you want to have a special page for that particular program, and you want to look at behavior. And so here in analytics behavior, I've got an analogous situation with this client. They did a special ad at a particular web client that's called Landscape Architecture. And we set up a special landing page called LA that anybody who came from that website didn't get a link to the main homepage. They had to go to the /LA page to come into the website. And we can see very specifically the number of folks who have come in from that web page. And you can see they're a very high quality visitor. They spend 10 minutes versus the average of 2 minutes for a visitor. They're very different. And we can see they entered here on this page, and we can specifically measure their conversions and their journey through the website.
Okay.
And so I can see not only the landing pages, but I can also see they're landing there and if they're exiting there. And I can search specifically for that page. And so my recommendation to you is to create a landing page and then measure the effectiveness of that landing page of getting people either into your funnel or to convert, depending on whether you expect them to subscribe immediately or whether you're going to get them into an email or other trickle contact campaign.
That's fantastic. Thank you. And maybe you provide a little bit of incentive from the advertisement themselves to visit the page, such as like a, I don't know, a discount or something.
You can have a coupon code, absolutely. And that's another great way to track is through a special coupon code or offer. And anytime you offer a discount, you want to offer a discount with a deadline, because people are incredibly motivated not to miss out. Fear of missing out is one of our biggest human motivations in the marketing world. And so even if you have an artificial deadline, it doesn't mean anything to you, but it's meaningful to the potential customer or client. It can motivate behavior that otherwise would take much longer. So anytime you've got a coupon, have an end date. And then if you have to reissue a new coupon with another end date based on the buying cycle for your particular clients.
That was fantastic. Thank you.
You bet. Other questions?
We are at the top of the hour, Catherine, so I do want to let folks who do need to jump off and say thank you all for being here. And Catherine, you just packed this so full of great nuggets of wisdom. I think there are a couple questions. Do you have a few moments to stay on and answer those?
Absolutely.
All right, so if anyone wants to stay on and continue to listen, please do. But if you need to run, we understand. You got a busy day of Zoom calls ahead, so have fun and thank you for being here. So the next question, Catherine, comes from Michelle, and she was asking if you have any suggestions for real estate agents in this virtual climate.
Wow.
I know.
I haven't done a lot of work with realtors. What I would look for is realtors tend to have a high level of success with personal connections. And in the COVID environment, social distancing, you're not making those personal connections face to face. So how do you use your social media to foster more personal connections and more referrals? And so I would look at those social media metrics and social media content and think really creatively around this content creation and interactions that you can do in your Facebook, your Instagram, or if you're in the kind of market where Twitter people would follow you, and that really depends on what kind of realtor you are and who your target client is, because Twitter has a very unique cross-section of demographics that tends to skew much more male and much younger. And so if you're selling condos to young tech guys, Twitter might be a good place to do it. But if you're selling retirement homes to folks, 60 plus who are moving to their retirement community, you're not going to find them on Twitter. So you sort of have to match your message and your medium in social media to your potential target. And you have to have sort of what it is you offer. Who do you work with best? So do you work best with first-time home buyers? You might put together some content over, now during the COVID times on how to think about home buying in financial crisis. What are the tools and resources that are available to first-time home buyers who may have saved for the down payment but just saw their savings drop 20%? What can supplement that? How could a federal mortgage help with that? What's happening with interest rates so people can get into the market? So you can provide more value there, and then ask your friends and connections in social media to share that so that accessibility is made to a broader group. And then you can look at Facebook advertising to amplify that through target marketing. And that's a whole nother session that we could do, is how to target Facebook advertising. Does that help? Okay. So Maya said Zoho CRM. No, Zoho is a great CRM platform and program. It's a CRM is only as good as how you use it. And so the most important thing once you've got a CRM is to figure out, for those people, for example, in your CRM who've gone stale, who haven't responded in however many months that stale would be in your market, what are you doing to go back to those stale leads and either get them to fish or cut bait? Are you cleaning out that database? Are you refreshing offers and content to re-engage them and see if they are still live in searching for a solution for the problem that you originally connected them with them for? Because marketing is all about solving your customer's problem in a way that's a win-win for them and for you. And if you take your CRM and approach it from that perspective, where do I find the win-win to solve this customer's problem? You should be mining that CRM and that database with more outbound messages, connections, and emails than you might be today. Scott, I'm gonna have to check out Streak. I don't know Streak, so send me a link. I'd love to look at it. Lauren's got Pipedrive, excellent, Insightly. Other questions?
There's one kind of way down, and I think it's what you just hit on when answering Michelle. And Michelle says, thanks, by the way. Spencer was asking a specific question around Facebook ads. He asked, is there anything you would recommend for Facebook ads and tracking traffic to a landing page from Facebook? Would it mainly be Google Analytics or is it Google Console?
Oh, so for Facebook traffic tracking, actually the best thing to do is to grab a Facebook Pixel. They have a great step-by-step guide. And if you're trying specifically to drive traffic from Facebook to a landing page, the thing to do is to make a Facebook Pixel in Facebook and then put it in the coding of that landing page. Then you'll be able to track in Facebook Insights how many people came to that page, and you'll be able to track in Google Analytics how many people came from Facebook to that landing page. So let me show you what that looks like. Let me go here to Analytics. And if we go to, I can look at a specific page. So I'm going to look at my 14 Reasons page, which is one of my social media conversion pages. So I chose this page because I know it specifically is. And so I've gone into behavior, site content, landing pages, because we're talking here about landing pages, getting people to a page. And I can see I've got a low bounce rate, good pages per session, good session duration relative to my norm for this website. I can dive deeper here into secondary dimension and go to acquisition source medium, which is the one I generally go to. And I can look at, by this page, where people are coming from. So the vast majority are being driven by Google cost per click, with a few Google organic and DuckDuckGo organic. And Pinterest has brought 2 people to this page, and Facebook has brought none. So that tells me that this is not a good Facebook page. And so I picked the wrong page, basically. Sorry about that. I'd forgotten this was mostly a cost per click page, but that's what this is. And it measures then by behavior, site content, landing pages, by source of traffic. I can not only see how they were acquired, but I could, whoops, where'd it go? Should I just close out that? No, I can actually see whether people have converted. So this page has generated $4,000 in traffic at a pretty decent conversion rate for this particular client relative to their norm, which is why it's a Google cost per click page. And we've optimized it over time to try and improve its conversion action. And there's actually more to be done, because the other thing we can do is see if that's an exit page. So I can go here and I can look at 14 Reasons and I can see its relative number of exits compared to other pages. So it's got a 58% exit compared to this page, which has a 42% exit. So maybe I should do a comparison in that ad and land them on 14 Reasons or raised garden bed kits. And it could be I'll do a better efficiency by landing them on this page that has fewer exits. So there's a wealth of data in Google Analytics that allows you to dive into where you're bringing clients to your site and whether or not they're staying on the site and whether they're converting from the site.
Thanks, Catherine. You got an all caps awesome from Spencer. So I think you answered his question. Spencer, is there anything else, or is that clear? You said thank you so much. Cool. Is anyone else, and hoping we can wrap it up in the next couple minutes, anyone else have questions or things they'd like to ask of Catherine? All right. Well, thank you all so much.
Great.
Catherine, thanks for such a great session. My mind is blown. I got a lot of work to do.
Okay. Awesome. Wonderful. I hope that was helpful. And there's so much more on the slide set. So
we'll get that collected and posted out soon. I know Chris is working on finding a landing page for all of this content to sit from all the sessions. Said she is asking for your email address. I don't know if you want to put it in the chat, Catherine. That would be really great. Cool. All right. Well, thanks everybody.
Nope, that went private. I need to go to, sorry, send chat to everyone.
Yeah, and I know it's on the Brink website too. I think your contact info is there under our team.
Yep.
So there we go. Cool. Thanks, Catherine. All right. Thanks, everybody. Glad to have you here today. We'll see you next week at 10. We're going to have Kurt Becker talking about leadership for rebels and renegades. So hope to see you there. All right. Take care, everybody. Thanks.
Bye.